This week on SV Lynx. Welcome to this week's SV Lynx video. Last week, Brian and Phil got started on the Helm Hardtop, and this week we're going to make more progress on that.
So we've got a lot to show you over at the lot, but I also wanted to mention that at the end of this video, as far as the work week, we're going to answer some viewer questions that have come across in the last couple videos. So stick around for that, but let's head over to the lot. This morning, at the beginning of a new week, we're starting out with back to the leg supports for the Helm Hardtop. And because we're not going to seal these to the deck, these are just going to be bolted onto a frame, we have to seal the bottoms because water could get underneath. So we're starting out right now we cored out these and we're going to fill these. And then these are the part of the little frame that goes around. Now we built those already, but there was a couple of spots that need a little bit more epoxy, so we're going to fill those at the same time. And once this all sets up, we'll be ready to put these legs in place up on the roof, and then we can get the hardtop up on there. Now the hardtop positioning is actually very, very critical. These legs I have a little bit of wiggle room on, but the hardtop itself is very precise because the mid-level stays that come down, one of them goes through that hardtop. There's a hole cut in the hardtop specifically for that stay to go through. And that means that hardtop has to be a very precise position so that the stay goes right through the hole that they've already cut. So we'll have to be very careful about measuring where that goes. Now, in a worst case scenario, let's say that we mount this thing and we did all the measurements we possibly could, but there's one thing we can't check until we have the mast up and the mid-level stay coming down to the mount. We can't actually know where that's going to go other than by the plans. Worst case scenario, it's just foam and epoxy. We'll just cut the hole a little bit wherever it needs to be and seal up the other hole if necessary. So it's not like it would be the end of the world, but save us some work if we get that in the right position and it happens to hit right exactly into that hole. So we'll give it our best effort. With those pieces for the hardtop setting up right now, we can't work on the hardtop for the helm, so that's okay. Remember that we haven't done this last third of the fairing for this cabin top ceiling here. So we're going to go ahead and apply our fairing compound right now, and then maybe this afternoon we'll see. We'll start continuing to sand because we've only sanded maybe the first half of these 2/3 that we did before. So we've got to go from the middle all the way over there. And then, of course, once this is set up, we have to come all the way back. So a lot of sanding to go on this baby. But it's getting there. A few more grueling hours on it, and we can put this one to rest. Our reward for putting this one to rest will be to go out into the cockpit and do the sealing out there. And that, we have to wait back way up because we got a lot of work to do before we can even start fairing it. We've got 3 beams like this one, 3 of them that go to support that. We got to build those in. We got to put the sail track in. A lot of work there first. But Brian's here, so I'm going to get going. We'll get started on this end over here. Brian and I are now getting ready to put the beams in that support the roof in the cockpit, and we have to create those beams. So first thing we got to do is rip some of these Western red cedar boards in half. So we're going to do that right now. All right, now we'll just have to cut them to length, and tomorrow we'll glue them together because it's too hot. We're gonna be a little warm in the afternoons for the rest of this week, so we'll be doing all of our epoxy work before noon and all of our prep work for the next day afternoon. So this is afternoon, and it's a 88, 89 degrees Fahrenheit in Celsius, so a little warm, too warm for epoxy. The other job we have to do is prep these little pieces here. Now we already filled them. So they should be ready to go. Pretty much like that. These are our little mounts for the bottoms of the posts for the hardtop up there. So these are going to go in here. So what we need to do is, to make these strong, we're going to need to tab these. And so what we want to do is put a little rounded edge on the outside of this. So we're going to route these up right now. And I'm just setting them up like this so that we can mark which edge has to be routed, so I don't mess that up. All right, so that one's marked. This morning we're going to get to epoxying all of this wood together. These are the beams that go on the ceiling of the cockpit, and it's still cool, about 77 degrees Fahrenheit, Celsius, and plenty cool enough to epoxy this wood together. I cut these wood pieces just a little long because we want to custom fit them into where they butt up against the bulkhead 6 and where they butt up against the mainsail track support underneath. And we want that to be precise, so I don't want to go off the plans. I want to go off the reality for that. So we cut these just a little long so we can go up there and actually mark where they get cut and then cut them off. So we can cut it after they're all glued together. We're just lopping the end off. Now, the other thing we have to do to these will be to bevel the edge, but we'll wait until the glue is set up before we do that. And we really need to get to the sail track next. And I don't really want to put these up until the sail track is in place. The sail track is a very complex piece of construction. There's all kinds of different elements involved there, with fiberglass and Western red cedar and stainless steel flat bar and aluminum sail tracks, and it's a whole bunch of stuff. So I've got a few things on order right now. Still waiting for them to arrive. Specifically the steel. Now I went ahead and ordered the steel flat bar for not only the mainsail track, but we have to build a jib track up front as well. It's the same full width of the flat part of the roof, which is around 10 feet long, or this in centimeters. And we'll get to both of them. They're constructed differently, but they both do involve a steel flat bar there. But the rest of the construction is different between the two. But I want to get the mainsail one first. So we'll have these ready, and that way when we get that track in, they're ready to go. Okay, rolling. Okay, so we built the two long beams. One goes in the center of the cockpit, one goes on the port side. They go from bulkhead 6 all the way back to the mainsail track. But then there's a short one that goes from the back of the seat at the helm to the mainsail track, and that's much a shorter distance, which is what this one's going to be when we build it. Now, we clamp these two together. There's two separate beams. We just put a piece of peel ply between the two of them so they don't stick together, but that way we only had to use one set of clamps to clamp them both. And we'll use a different set of clamps to create this one. Well, not too much longer and we'll be set. Next up, we're working on the support pieces that go on the base of these helm top arms, legs, whatever. Arms, legs. So what we've done is we've drilled the holes because there's going to be bolts going through. And we put a piece of tape on this side, and we're going to mix some very thin epoxy and just fill these, just pour and fill those up. And then we'll let that set up and re-drill them with the actual size. This is wider than the bolt. And so that bolt will be going through pure epoxy. And we'll also drill these and fill these and drill through these as well. So we'll start with these little pieces and get these filled up right now.
And while those set up, it was back to sanding above our heads, because we love sanding above our heads.
Well, one good thing about the warm weather, stuff sets up fast. So I've already got these all hardened up. Brian's just grinding off a little bit to smooth them out like this. And we get ready to re-drill these. Be all set. Meanwhile, also because of the warm weather, these are all set up now. So you get the clamps off. And make sure that we can separate these two beams. See if they come apart. Just like that. All right. So we're going to go ahead and bevel the edges on these. Okie dokie. Recording? Yes, I am. Okay, well, all of these are done. I got a nice soft curving edge there. That'll be easy to glass. So these are ready to be put up onto the ceiling now. So tomorrow we're going to try to mount the brackets up on the roof for the 4 legs for the Helm Hardtop, because we got them pretty much prepped today. We still have to, now that we've got the epoxy filled in the drilled out holes, we got to re-drill smaller holes through the epoxy. We'll probably do that right now, but tomorrow we can get to glassing those in. And we're working on these legs, and we finished getting the epoxy filled in on these, so now we're just drilling through. Like that. So we drilled these out, filled them, and now we're drilled them out, filled them, and we're just drilling through. This morning we're fine-tuning the adjustment on this foot that's going to be mounted up onto the cabin top, because right now we're at a slight angle and we need to get this to straighten up, so this has to be at a slight angle down here. So we're fixing that up right now. And we're doing this fun little piece of peel ply here so that we can leave this actually inserted in here while it glues. That gives us something to hold it up and also make sure that this is still all in alignment while this is gluing to the roof. All right, so got it held with some bricks. It's nicely straight up and down with our level. So we're letting that tack up right now. And while we're letting that one set up, we're going to come back on this corner here. And work on this one. This one had an original mark, which we found out we didn't like, and so this is the real one over here. Working on leg number 2. Straight up and down now, according to level, not just visual. And put this board in here just so to shade that epoxy while it's setting up. Fortunately, this side is all shaded, so we're no good. We're all good there. We go back here. Those are nicely in line. Well, that's 2 down, 2 to go. Those were the 2 hard ones, though, because these were on the angled piece of roof, so we had to angle the bottoms. Up here we're on a flatter piece, although it does slope downwards, so you might have to fix that a little bit. This one's pretty level up here. Well, the first 2 legs are being tacked down up there, and we want to let that epoxy set up before we work on the other 2 because we don't want to bump them at all because they're perfectly level and held up by just some bricks up there. So in another hour or so they'll be hard enough that they won't move again. But while we wait, we've got the hardtop itself here. And we've got a bunch of jobs we've got to do this. The first thing is, of course, we have to pull the peel ply. So that's what Brian's getting started at over there. And then we have to core the edge all the way around and fill that with thickened epoxy. We don't need to put rope into it, but we do need to seal it. And then we want to put a raised lip around the whole top of this. And that's to keep any water that lands on here from just sheeting off. For example, this is where we walk out from the helm, right beneath where this is. We don't want water sheeting off right where we're going to walk out onto the deck. So we're going to put a raised lip around this whole thing and then figure out where we want it to drain out. We'll probably just leave a gap so that it will flow out through that gap onto the coach rooftop and not where we're walking. We could put one of those at the stern and at the front, so depending on which way the boat's pitching, the water will go out either side. We also have this hole to deal with right here. This is where the inner stays go, the lowers. And so the upper stay comes in at an angle like this, but the other stay comes in right here, right through the hardtop. And if we didn't want this to happen, we could have cut the hardtop back, but then you're losing a lot of the hardtop that's giving you shade from where you're sitting at the helm. So we didn't want that either. So that's why we went with the stay going right through right here. Now we don't want water that's raining and coming down where that stay is. So we're going to put a raised lip around the top of this as well, so that any water doesn't go down that hole. It'll run out to wherever we have our exit. What else? We have to cut a big hole in this where we're going to put our acrylic, because when you're sitting at the helm, which you're going to be sitting about here, we want the person at the helm to be able to look up through the top and take a look at the sails. And we want the line handler, who's going to be standing about here, we want them to be able to look up through the acrylic and also take a look at the sail. Because if they're adjusting the sails, they're going to want to be able to look up. So we do have a solar panel on top of this. And the solar panel will be just one, but it'll be over here. It takes up about this much space here. But that leaves a good piece here that we can have a big piece of acrylic that's all here, right where the helm and the line handler can take a look up. So we'll have to figure out where we want that hole and how big we want it, and we're going to have the piece of acrylic made for us as well. That's not part of the kit. That's something we decided to add, is that acrylic window here. So a lot of work to get this hardtop as we want it. We also have a bit of repair here, because if you remember that video where I had to race down to the lot because there were 60-mile-per-hour winds trying to lift the cabin top off that we hadn't yet bonded down. The thing that we lost was this. It flew off the boat, and it landed, luckily for us, with very little damage and right up against we found it leaning against the side fence of the yard. But this is where it landed, on this corner, and it crushed this corner about maybe 3 centimeters or 1.5 inches in. So what we're going to have to do is repair this. So we're going to have to core back pretty far here to get rid of any of that core and fill that, and then clamp this to get it flat again. So we'll recreate this corner with some epoxy and such. And depending on how much we cut back, I might put some foam in there too. So we'll see. First I'll core it out till we're down to good foam, and then I'll see how much it is. And if it's too much, I'll cut myself a piece of foam to put in there, and then we'll seal the outside. Got all the peel ply off both sides, but now we got to flip it back over because we got to do most of the work on the other side. There we go. Ready? All right, come my way. There we go. I'm stuck. All right. Have a pull. Right. All right, so we got core in there. It's about 1 centimeter deep. That'll be enough thickened epoxy, and that'll strengthen up this edge. It'll also allow us to bevel this edge as well, because there'll be enough epoxy that could put a slight bevel on it all the way around once the epoxy sets up. So while we were coring this, we also cored our little hole here, so we can fill that at the same time when we fill all of this. These will go right there, cut them off, same bevel, good to go. Now what we have to figure out now is where we want it to drain. It's Saturday, so we got Jeff in here helping, Brian and I, and what they're up to right now is filling epoxy into the coring we did yesterday. So they're going to work their way all the way around here. And then after that, they're going to get to putting our top edge in. And while they're doing that, I am working up here at the helm. Now, yesterday we've got the first two of these glued in, and they're set up, but I'm going to work on the other two right now. So I'm going to start with the one that goes right here. We'll have three of the corners on. We couldn't do this fourth corner right now because this is the repaired area, and we had to leave this clamped because it was going to bow up a little bit. So our repair's done, but we've got to let that set up before we glue this last corner on. No big deal. We have the whole edge on there now.
So you can see the guys got a lot of work done on the supports and the actual hardtop.
We're going to take some viewer questions, and we'll have Marianne read the first one here, and then I'll answer this one.
Okay, our first question is from Craig. Have you considered having the opening to the galley from the cockpit side, keeping the center island for your TV, keeping sync by the nav station, allowing a complete free worktop along the window side, and allowing for appliances? You could put narrow units along this area as well.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea. It is one we did consider. We tried every configuration we could think of for the galley, and that was the one I wanted, other than the one we went with. In fact, if you want to see a boat that has that configuration, take a look at the Fontaine Peugeot Salon 48, which is a boat we were interested in buying before we decided to build our own. And that's exactly their galley layout. But what you'll find is that they had to take the freezer and move it out of the entire galley and put it up underneath the front windows, so it wasn't even in the galleys. You had to leave the galley and go up to the front windows to get into the freezer, and that's very odd. But that's not the deal breaker here. It's just that in our case, with our boat and our layout, we have some room issues. So I'm going to show you that right now on the computer here, and show you why we decided not to do that. So here's that layout, and you can see the sink is over here now. And that's the size of the farmhouse sink that goes in there. And we have a refrigerator underneath this counter and the TV up front here. Now, the TV is a little off center from the table now, but that's not that big a deal. The real problem is we have to leave enough space to walk into this galley through here, and that eliminates one of our freezer options that we have. And the second thing is if you look down here, that black square right here is the mass compression post. It cannot move. And there's just not enough space to walk between the edge of that counter here and the mass compression post. Even if we, moved the nav station in some, the mass compression post can't move. And so there's just not enough space to go through on that. So this layout, although it's a good idea, isn't actually functional for us. And so that's why we went back to the layout that we ended up with.
Okay. Our next question is from Charles. Charles says, I'm confused. Why do you need both 230 volt and 110 volt electrical systems? Presumably, the electrical devices on the boat are all one or the other, and I would assume an isolation transformer could convert whatever you're getting for shore power as necessary.
You're absolutely right. And we do have an isolation transformer from Victron that we're putting onto the boat. And then originally that was our plan. Exactly what you just said was our plan. Here's our problem. We're building this boat in the United States, but we decided that there are more places in the world that are 230 European style power than there are 110. And so we wanted our boat to be using 230 because less conversions in more countries. And so that's what we set it up for. That's what we purchased our Victron inverters, our 10,000 watts to 5,000 watt inverters for 230. Which is the problem, because when we went to purchase 230 volt appliances of various kinds, the cost for us to get these shipped in here, and now the tariffs involved, and it was so expensive. The same unit that would cost us $150 would cost us $500 to $600 coming from overseas, and there's many of these. It's like 5 different devices, and all total, this was going to cost us $2,000 to $3,000 more money to do that. And so, maybe we should have gone with a 110 boat then. But we'd already purchased our 230 volt, and we did like the idea of it being 230. And we already have devices that are 230. Those devices aren't the kitchen stuff. That's things like the dive compressor is 230 volts already. We have some 230 volt, all the air conditioning is all 230 volt. So we have devices that are 230 because that's what you expect to go with, but all of these kitchen devices and stuff would have cost us so much more money to go 230 that we decided that's just not worth it. Instead, what we did is we bought another 5,000 watt inverter from Victron that is for 110. And so now we can run both powers. And if we're plugged in at the shore for 110, it can go straight to that. And if we're plugged in 230, it can go straight to there. We can put 110 volt appliances if we want. We can have 110 volt and 230 multi-plugs. They're a wall socket that you can plug either one into, and it just has dual wiring inside. And so if somebody visits us from the US and they've got a 110 device they want to plug in, it'll plug right into that socket, or if we've got 230, they'll plug right into the same socket, and they just use the different inverters. So it just gives us a lot of versatility, and it was cheaper to buy that inverter than it was to ship in all the appliances, refrigerators and such. So anyway, that's why we decided to go ahead and do that.
Okay. Another viewer says, I wonder about your removable helm roof and where it would be stored when it's down for going through height-restricted areas. Their feeling is that with the supports permanently attached to the roof, things would not be as strong and it will be inconvenient to store. I do realize these situations hopefully will be very infrequent, but I just envision a top with 4 legs sticking up down in your cockpit. Very inconvenient.
It would be if we put it in the cockpit, but this thing is very large. Our Helm Hardtop is huge, and there's no way it could even fit in the cockpit. But where it will fit is up on the foredeck area where the trampolines are. There's plenty of space for it up there. And so we'll just cart it down the roof onto the front foredeck area there. And the fact is, you mentioned this, probably very few. Right now in our plans, there are 2 times that we have to take that down. And if you include the trip from the lot to the ocean, that makes 3. So that's in 14 years and twice around the world. So we don't have to take that thing off very often. We do have to take it off though. And so it's the 2 cases where it's bridges, we're going to take it off put it on the foredeck, go under the bridge, and put it right back up again. So it's not going to really be an inconvenient thing or out on the foredeck there, because it's going to be for, an hour. So it's just not very long when we put it back up. Now, the trip down to the ocean, that's the same thing. We'll put it on the foredeck, tie it down, because it's going to be driving on a truck. But we just can't have it up to get underneath the freeway overpasses. It just doesn't make it by about a foot, so we have to take that down. But the number of times we'll take it down later are very few. I wish it was 0, and then I wouldn't even have to have this come off, but there are a couple times that we'll have to take it down. Now, as far as secure, the way we've done the mounts, it's going to not ever move and be extremely secure. Those mounts are glassed into the roof, and we're using 8 stainless steel bolts. We're going to seal it down as well because we have to take it off so rarely that I don't mind having to pry out a little bit of, Sikaflex or something on there. So it's going to be incredibly secure. It's not going to move ever until we have to take it down, and then we'll pry it out of there and take it down. So it's not really a terrible big concern to us, but we did want it removable.
Okay, now we have a comment from Ivan's Garage, and their concern is, why not galley down? Why do so many people like living in the kitchen galley? To me, cooking is a minimal use of your daily life. Sailing Zatara, galley down, full-size fridge.
All right, so let's talk about that. The most important thing to remember here is galley up and galley down is just a completely personal choice. There's no better one. For some people, it's definitely advantageous to go with galley down, and I can give you reasons why. There's less motion down there, so when you're standing and cooking, you've got less motion. So higher you go up, the little more pendulum effect you have. So there's that side of it. So on the flip side, having a galley up has some other advantages. It's up where you can see the horizon really nice with all the windows and things from a standpoint of getting seasick. So you might have a slight more motion, but you've got better vision. You have the social aspect. Anytime you're cooking or preparing food or cleaning up dishes or doing any of those things, you're right there with everybody rather than separated down into the hall. But regardless of either of those advantages and disadvantages, in our particular case, it would have been a very difficult thing to put the galley down. And that's because the hulls are performance catamaran hulls, which means they're very narrow. And this isn't sailing Zatara, which is sailing, they probably have twice the width in the hulls that we have. And so putting the galley down there is a space problem. There's just not enough room. And if we did go galley down, we couldn't have the 2 heads for the 2 cabins that are there because it would take up that headspace. So there's just not enough space to put it down. So in our case, really wasn't a choice. We had to go galley up. It also happens to be that I'm one of those people who likes the galley up social side of it anyway. So I would have leaned that direction regardless of the fact that we couldn't put it down there, but we just couldn't. So that's just the way it is.
Okay, our next query is from B Daddy. How long would you have to run your engine as a generator to fully charge or low battery bank you have? How long would your battery bank last if you had no way of charging solar or shore power? If you were in an overcast situation for, say, a week, how long would you have to run your engine, and what gallons per hour would you burn?
A lot of questions there, but I'll try to make it quick. We have a very large generator. Remember, there's a 25 kilowatt electric motor attached to that 80 horsepower diesel. Now, the fact is you're not going to get 25 kilowatts while that diesel is running the generator, but you will get about half. So let's call it 12 kilowatts. That's a large generator. And our battery bank is 33 kilowatts, but you're never going to burn the whole thing. You're going to use 80%, so let's call that around 25 kilowatts, somewhere in there. So 12 kilowatts is going to recharge the entire battery bank when it's at its full lowest state we're going to take it to in 2 hours. We burn about a gallon an hour So that's going to cost us 2 gallons to recharge completely our batteries. Now, if we're sitting in an anchorage becalmed for a week, we're not even going to use 25 kilowatts a day because we're not going anywhere. We're not have propulsion going, so that's the major use of it. We're just running refrigeration and any electronics that we want to run. That's not going to use 25 kilowatts a day. So one recharge of the batteries will last us at least 2 days. Okay, so right off the bat, we charge the batteries, we go 2 days, and if you're talking a week, we have to charge the batteries 3 to 4 times, let's say. So it's going to cost us 8 gallons of fuel. We have on board 200 gallons of fuel from diesel if we're full. And, you know, you can do the math here. It's a long time. If we burn 2 gallons, we can do that 100 times, and that goes 2 days. That's 200 days. So we could sit still becalmed for 200 days and still have power with, if there's no solar for that entire time. I don't know what that would be, a nuclear winter or something. You know, a super volcano went off and clouded the skies. In normal circumstances, we're never going to be without sun for that long, and you know, so it's just not a problem. Now, we're not going to run full diesel tanks most of the time, or I should say, some of the time. When we're crossing oceans, we're going to go with full diesel tanks because we just want the backup. But when we're in along shore, which we are the majority of the time, and if diesel's available or we can repurchase it fairly often, there's no reason to put over 1,000 pounds of diesel on board. So in those cases, we'd run maybe 50 gallons of diesel, that's all we need, because we can refill you know, every few days if we wanted to. But even 50 gallons of diesel, that's you know, at 2 gallons each, at 25 times, and 2 days each, that's 50 days. You know, it's still way more diesel than we need to recharge our batteries for those uses. Now, don't forget that to be using that diesel generator, we'd have to be becalmed and overcast, both, because we can generate power from sailing. We can regenerate by wind as long as we go sailing. So the only case where we would have to generate power from the diesel is if it was both overcast and becalmed for a very long time, and we could go so long off of the diesel, even 50 gallons. So just not a worry.
Okay, our next question is from Jeff. Do you think it would be possible to calculate with a huge approximation how many man-hours you've put in until now, or would it be practically impossible?
No, it's not impossible. We tracked hours, and we haven't been diligent in tracking every single precise hour all the time, but we've kept general account of how much time we've spent. So that number I can pretty easily say is in between 8,000 and 9,000 right now. Right around there is so far. And we estimated originally that it would take 10,000 hours, which only leaves us between 1,000 to 2,000 hours left. And we're not going to make that. Now that I see where we're at, I believe that we've got at least a year more to go. And that's going to be another probably 6,000 hours. And I just want to mention that the first year that Brian and I worked, we worked absolutely full time, and then we had other people helping. So we were getting a lot of hours, 8-hour days, 5 days a week, and plus additional people. So we got a lot of hours that first year, but we're old and we're getting older. And so we cut out a little bit. We cut off an hour early each day from the first year. And so we were getting more like 7 hours a day. And we had, and have had recently, less help. That's because the big jobs that required us to have tons of people mostly done. And so I haven't been calling in all my friends and family to come do labor on a boat that's not theirs. Even though they do show up when I ask, I haven't been calling them much because we don't have to have them. But that also means we've cut down hours from that standpoint too. So it's just Brian and I mostly. We usually have one person a week for one day beyond Brian and I. So, you know, the first year we had more hours done than we did the second. So And this third year that we're going to end up doing here is probably going to be about the same as the second year. We'll probably, again, average more like 7 hours, not to each, but 7 hours a day schedule. So I hope that answers your question.
And our final question is from Paul. Really enjoying the build series. Curious to know why bothered fairing the ceiling. Surely you need to insulate it. If you plan to sail anywhere hot or cold, you would be better to add insulation than have a finished panel ceiling hiding it. No more sanding, and you would have an insulated ceiling, which would make the space comfortable to live in.
Yeah, we had not just this comment, but several comments about putting in a liner on the ceiling. And the thing is that this boat wasn't designed for a ceiling liner, and that means that to put one in, we would, I mean, he's talking about a separate ceiling causing an air gap in between, and that would lower the ceiling down. And I'm already pretty close to the ceiling when I'm up near the front where we walk between the stairs. I'm pretty close already. If I drop the ceiling down there, I'd have to duck my head. So we really don't have the space, particularly up forward there, to put in a drop down ceiling like that, headliner. And the second thing is, could you put like a vinyl foam, which is only maybe, I don't know, less than a 1/4 inch thick, or 5 to 8 or 10, not 10, 5 or 8 millimeters thick, somewhere in there. Could we glue that to the ceiling and then we wouldn't have to fair and sand? Absolutely. But I don't want to do that. And the reason is that anything glued up to that ceiling always has the potential to come loose, and I just don't want to have that worry that ceiling's going to come down at all. And it also, and I know you won't think it's much, but it's a large ceiling. It also adds weight to the boat. And we're trying to keep this performance boat as light as we can. So adding that ceiling adds weight. I think a drop ceiling would add even, headliner would add even more weight, but adding even the foam adds a little bit of weight. And also adds cost because we have to buy all that. And so I want to save the money, save the weight, and save the room for my head. And because of all three of those reasons, we're just going to have to sand the roof and paint it. So yeah, it's hard. And Brian and I are only do it maybe an hour each day, and we switch off. So each of us is really only doing 30 minutes, and it takes about an hour of time for switching off. And that's probably going to take us, I'd say, 2 weeks of an hour a day to get that Salon, and then we'll have another 2 weeks to sand the cockpit ceiling. So over a month, but it's only 1 hour a day, so it's not like it's the only thing we're doing. But in the end, it's just going to be a lot better. I want to mention one more thing, because he said about insulation. Surely we need insulation from the heat. Well, our boat is built out of foam, and it has fiberglass panels on top, and then a very thick, particularly the cabin top, a very thick foam layer, and then more fiberglass. And as a simple test, we've had some really hot weather this week, and for example, today we're going to hit 100 degrees, and that is Celsius. And so I went out there when it was blazing hot on the cabin top, and I moved the tarp away, put my hand on the fiberglass, and it was almost too hot for me to even touch. It was that burning hot on the top of that ceiling. Then I went inside the boat and touched the same spot underneath, and it was room temperature. None of that heat was passing through because the foam is an insulation. And so even though it was red hot on the outside, it was room temperature on the other side. So the answer is our ceiling is insulated. It's insulating with foam right now, and it works just fine. Well, that's all the questions we're going to do for this week. But if you're still here, thank you for making it all the way through the video and spending some time with us. We appreciate it.
Yep. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you particular to our patrons listed here. We couldn't do it without you, and we always enjoy getting questions from you. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and click on the bell icon to be notified of our next video.
And we'll get back to work on the boat and show you all that next week.
Bye.